Welcome back. I'm Mark Lombardi, Abington Patch regular and Suburban Geek blogger, and again we are off the record on Abington News and Views. We've been talking righties versus lefties. Representing the right is Dr. Bob Sklaroff and blogger Ed Boyd. Representing the left is myself and Democratic State Commissioner Greg Holt. Committeeman, I'm sorry. I'm getting ahead on.
I'll take your.
Well, no, I'm actually getting ahead on the commissioner issue because you were a former Abington commissioner.
That's correct.
And our next point would be the Republicans in the Abington Board of Commissioners. Are they winning by attrition?
Well, right now they are. At some point after Madeline Dean wins the election in the fall, she'll be leaving the board. And Les Benzak has left the board. Obviously, the Republicans have the majority vote, and they will be appointing, I'm sure, Republicans to both of those positions. And if you've got the votes, then you're going to have it your way. However, I'm very confident that come November of 2013, the Democrats will regain those seats and hopefully one more to get a majority. I think those wards are certainly well-established Democratic wards in my mind, but we'll worry about that next year. But for now, yes, they are.
Okay, Ed, your thoughts on this?
It's the only way that the Republicans are winning right now because they seem to be caving on quite a few issues of note within Abington Township, most specifically the anti-discrimination ordinance, which was recently passed. It was disappointing, to say, to put it mildly, the election results this past couple of weeks ago, when there was a special election to fill Josh Shapiro's seat. Republicans threw everything that they had, because the state really had no other viable competition going on. Republicans threw everything they had behind the Republican candidate Nick Mattiacci, and still lost by 22%. That's disappointing. The Republicans have, in my opinion, over the last decade at least, done nothing to broaden their base in Abington, and they really better start focusing on that, or we're going to continue to have losses by the GOP in our own backyard.
Dr. Bob?
I want to correct point and then amplify what was just said by Ed. Number one, Madeline is not resigning, either now and presumably in the fall as well. She can, by law, hold both positions, and I think she will. The reason Benzak had to resign is he relocated his residence, and Kalinowski is going to be appointed by the commissioners to replace. So there's one flip, not two flips that are going to occur. And that district is not like mine, which is Ward 7, which is where Madeline is. And that is that she has like 2-to-1 majorities in 2 of the 3 precincts, Democrat. So Ward 7, good chance your point is well taken, when the term is over in 3.5 years. On the other hand, Kalinowski barely lost the last time he ran, which was, I think, was like 5 years ago. And so he would have a very good chance of getting reelected. The key point politically is that we have Democrats and we have rhinos. Republicans in name only. And that's the problem in ATRO, the Abington Township Rockledge Borough Republican Organization. And that's why it's so important to enhance the Tea Party movement and other conservatives who are libertarian, who are less apt to focus in on social issues and much more apt to be fiscally conservative. And of course, if I may mention my lawsuit against Republicans who are, number one, running the Board of Commissioners to suppress freedom of speech, and number 2, running the Board of Commissioners to allow for the Brandolini takeover of the Baderwood Shopping Center.
Let's talk about suppressing freedom of speech, because I think we do want to go on to the next topic, which is fairly important to this, which is the 3-minute rule at the Abington Township meetings. Someone who I'm sure is quite familiar with this 3-minute rule, because you're a mainstay there.
I'm the reason for it.
Well,
Because before I started yelling at them about the Roslyn Library situation and giving them handouts of documenting how stupid it was to try to play the game of eminent domain, there was no limit. Then they imposed all these limits on us. So I'm the father, you might say, of the 3-minute rule, which I think is ridiculous, absurd, arbitrary, and of course, I think illegally imposed based on the state law regarding freedom of speech.
Okay, and your thoughts on this?
You know, I've been a commissioner. We're doing the public's business. I think you have to be reasonable in terms of allowing the public to have their say.
Correct.
I don't like a time limit.
Correct.
I think that you certainly can give them, if they're making good points, I think you can give them time to do that.
Correct.
And I think that the public will understand if someone's being unreasonable
Or
in what they're demanding in terms of their time. But you know, is 3 minutes it? No. But I think there's a point where you can say, listen, let's kind of wrap it up.
Can you let the township know?
I think you got to be careful that one person just isn't dominating it, 15, 20 minutes just to be making their point.
Can you say what you say?
I agree, but if you remember, I'm not sure if you were at the anti-discrimination ordinance, the last of the when it was finally approved. There was a packed house. Right. And without that 3-minute rule, and look, I'm not up for limiting how much time somebody can speak. I agree with you on that end. But in that particular circumstance, we probably would have been there for weeks had we just allowed people just to opine at length. Anybody can make their opinion known to the commissioners by doing so in writing, and be as lengthy as they want. Whether the commissioners pay any attention to it may be a completely different deal.
Okay.
I want to make this last one really brief, yes or no answers on this. The Democrats are apparently planning to have a massive voter registration drive during the Glenside Parade. Is that something that should be permitted, yes or no?
Yes, and I'll tell you why after you go around with everybody else.
Yes, there's nothing illegal with registering voters at a public event.
I agree. Nothing wrong.
And I also agree.
And I'm going to tell you why it's important, because I gave you guys a hyperlink. And oh, by the way, anyone who wants to read my articles, my email address will be at the bottom. Send me an email and I'll send you articles on our site.
He will send you articles.
And,
that's right.
And the key thing here is that there was a seminar on C-SPAN, which was hosted by Eric Herder of the Attorney General, and co-sponsored by the Congressional Black Caucus. And they emphasized the tremendous problems that the black community faces right now in registration. 40% of blacks have relocated residences since 2008. 25% of blacks are not registered. So this is the reason why there's such a tremendous push from the Democrat perspective regarding voter registration.
Anybody who's got a problem with it, should do their own voter registration.
That is correct. Right. And Ed, you talked about ATRO and having to really broaden their base. I started in politics when ATRO was dominant, and I seem to recall every month they had a Saturday that committee people went out door to door registering. They were everywhere. You couldn't get away from them.
Doesn't happen.
Now, I never hear anything. And so, I think voter registration is a good thing. That's what we want people to do, to vote.
20 seconds left on the clock for each of us. Greg, I'd like to start with you. Do you have any final thoughts?
Well, I'm not going to talk on any subjects, but, on Saturday I put that stamp on that envelope, with the Philadelphia Eagles address on it. And it just brought back to me in 1980, when my brother and I watched the Eagles lose the Super Bowl, we said they'll win it next year. 24 years later, in 2004, we watched it with our sons, and they lose again. And what did our sons say? We'll win it next year. And we told our sons, hey, sons, we're running out of time. We can't wait another 24 years. We may not be around.
We should call that the curse of Santa Claus.
I'm sorry, what was that?
We should call that the curse of Santa Claus.
Yeah, I think so. But, I want my Eagles to get it done while I'm still here. Okay. So I'll close on that.
I'm going to close on a personal level. I've got 2 all-star softball and baseball players in my house. One's 11, one's 8. And playoff time is coming up, and I just want to wish them well.
Good luck to them.
And I want to congratulate Mark on 2 levels, as I promised I would, in writing, now orally. He, number 1, gave a point-by-point response to the defending this ordinance. I had problems with the response. Some of it was evasive because he said, well, it depends upon X, Y, Z, because he was not a commissioner, but nevertheless, he was a man of his word, he responded. He also, as we've all seen, has presided over now this second event with balance and with some degree of humor. So congratulations.
I appreciate that. Thank you very much, gentlemen. I'll just leave it really brief for me. If you want to hear more of my opinion, you can follow me on Twitter at @MarkLombardi. You can also read my blog at marklombardi.com. That really makes me sound egotistical. I guess there are some people out there that might be right. We thank all of our guests for being with us off the record. Folks at home, we would also like to thank you for watching Off the Record, and we'll see you next time.
I'm Vicki Venturini for Abington News and Views. Stay tuned for Merchant Showcase coming up next.